you were at Outreach,
Yeah.
and now, I mean, you grew Outreach. Outreach is doing well. Why would you move to another company, to a startup?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I had Outreach was this incredible rocket ship, right? So I joined right around between like 10 and 15 million. I left, we call it I'm trying to think. I left they're north of I left north of 250, right? Let's just say that, right? And um, you know, the company had reinvented itself tons and tons of times. And I had gotten to a point where I was like, I was kind of hitting the. I guess what I would say is that I was ready to go back and build, right? And I was kind of trying on like the fit of like, listen, this cut every day that we went by was another day that I was at the biggest company that I've ever been at in that type of role, right? And what I was seeing just in my own skill sets was that the farther along we went on the journey, the less and less pattern recognition that I had, right? And so I that kind of like planted the seed of like, do I want to continue on this journey of like growth by trial by fire, right? Or do I want to take what I've learned and what I know and my 10,000 hours of talking to CROs and VPs of sales at Outreach, and do I want to go back and build, which is where I usually have a natural more affinity to anyhow, right? And so ultimately, that's what it came down to was I determined that the my outreach team was probably better served with a leader who had a little more experience, at scaling past the stage that we were at, right? And then I started talking to the guys. I talked to probably 15 different companies, with some seriousness over a 6 to 9 month period. And started talking to the founders at Captivate IQ, and they were telling me about their product and their vision and the team and the challenges and things like that. And I kept talking to my wife through all this whole journey. And I was just like, I got more and more excited about what they were doing and what we are doing at Captivate now, that ultimately my wife's like, you talk more about the excitement here than you do at Outreach, right? And so Captivate was the first company I talked to with any seriousness, and obviously the last one. And so I had probably another 14 conversations in between the beginning and end of like kind of my Captivate recruitment journey. And ultimately it's been awesome. It's been everything I wanted it to be. So, but that's kind of the journey I went through. It was like, hey, am I a good role fit for what I want to do? Is it still matching up with my vision for my career and what I want to achieve? And ultimately is like, I wanted to go build. I wanted to lead my own shop. And I wanted to take the knowledge that I had cultivated at Outreach, and then use that towards another, hopefully a hot startup, which we're building.
So, I mean, you could have built anywhere. What made you keep talking to your wife about Captivate specifically?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things. Start with the founders. So Conway and Mark and Hubert. Um, First of all, they're all just good humans, right? So a lot of interesting stories popped out about them personally as I was going through the process. So one being when the Silicon Valley Bank situation happened, um, they floated payroll out of their own bank accounts. It's not a story they tell, but when I talked to one of the investors at Sequoia, it's one of the first stories that guy told me about them. And I was like, okay, that's something different. Like they just did it, right? Because it was the right thing to do for their team. So I really liked the founders. That was awesome. My main partner in crime, our CMO, Katie Foote, she's ex Drift, ex Salesforce, and she's just a powerhouse. She's a super dynamic, marketer, and so I was like, this is the person I'm gonna spend the most time with, and I'm gonna have like the most connection with, and we're gonna build this thing together. I was like, do I trust her and what have you? And so that was like a big piece of it, right? It was like, do I have somebody who's in sidecar with me, that I trust and believe in, and I do in Katie. And then the technology, commissions, the commission space isn't necessarily a category creating type of thing like Outreach was, right? However, it's a technology that nobody has tried to advance in years, right? And so everybody, for the most part, hates their current solution, right? Whether it's a legacy vendor, whether you're using spreadsheets, it's still causing a lot of pain. And the cool thing was that the architecture of Captivate IQ, something we call Smart Grid, it's built completely different, right? It's not object based like everything else is. It's a model based, and so it kind of fits into what FP&A and finance and CFOs already do. And so we had a unique take on the technology. And so all those things, like, hey, is my partner cool? Is the founder, is the founders great? Is the product, can I sell the product? Is it a unique differentiator? Is the market responding to it? Like, those things all mattered. And then the fourth thing was that, can I actually help? Right? Do I have the skill set and the ability based on the problem sets that I'm seeing? And ultimately I believe so. And so it was a kind of the perfect storm for that.
Why do you believe so?
On like, why do I believe I can help?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think with this, our sales team is, and actually kind of how you and I got connected was based on this, right? Is that where we have the opportunity is, the market's huge, the TAM is huge, and we largely have grown because of the technology, because of relationships, because of product-led growth, inbound, all those things, right? And now as the market's contracted, we have to be really good at outbounding. We have to be really good at value creation. We have to be really good at sales process and pipeline reviews and forecasting and like all of these like systematic process things. And like, that's my jam, right? And so when I thought about we were still winning huge deals and huge logos, but without process, right? We were taking, a third of the Fortune, the cloud Fortune 200 are our customers of Captivate IQs. And if you go look at those sales processes, we effectively white gloved all of them, right? And that's a great thing for us to go win the deals. But where's the repeatability? Where's the predictability? Where's the scale, right? And so like, ultimately that's where I come in. And then, how you and I got connected was obviously kind of talking about SCs and pre-sales, what have you. And we're a technical sale. And so there's obviously an opportunity to drive efficiency through our pre-sales team. And so when I saw all these problem statements, my strength in operations, my strength in systems and planning and strategy, really played really well to what is needed to take us to the next level.
Right. And you mentioned you've been on the job for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
What have you been doing these 6 weeks? I imagine a lot of different things, but is there any specific examples of where do you that's the thing. Where do you start when you come into a company like that?
Yeah. So so here's where we started. The second week on the job, I flew all my directs to San Francisco, and we effectively looked at the business from every angle we could look at the business. We looked at the data, like what's happening within our customers. We looked at what's our teams telling us from the engagement survey. We had contracted out a secret shopper, and so what is the experience like from a secret shopping standpoint, like what our customers like going through the cycles times doing. What was the POV of the executives and the board? What was the POV of each of them as from their inner departments? What's my point of view from like basically like outside looking in and having kind of a bird's eye view of everything. And so we looked at this thing like 6 or 7 different ways of like trying to understand what the problem sets were, right? And so we did that. That transformed into OKRs, right? Where we had, here's the things we're going to anchor on. And then we basically just started and we started knocking out the things. And the things that I'm really proud of that we've done so far is we have introduced weekly pipeline reviews where we're talking on every deal every week. We've rolled out an operating rhythm that gives the team structure and cadence on, hey, here's when we do our training, and here's when we do our deal strategy, and here's when we do our one-on-ones, here's when we do our huddles. And so it's predictable and it's scalable, which has been awesome. We're launching a new pitch deck next week at we're pulling all the sales teams together for an offsite here in my hometown in Seattle, where we're basically going to train everybody on the pitch deck, the new sales process, and then MedPick. And so And we closed a quarter, right? So this is all the stuff that happened in the last 6.5 weeks or so. And so where I started was, what's our team, our customers, our leadership, and what are we each other saying about the state of sales, right? And then from there, we prioritized the big rocks, and then we just went and started executing, right? And I think our next hurdle is actually SCs, it's pre-sales, right? Is that we have a really, again, we have a technical sale, and we have some really awesome wow moments in what we can do in pre-sales, but there's a high cost of delivery in terms of time, right? And so we've got to find some efficiencies in there, and that's, ultimately that's what I'm looking for, is my next challenge to go solve.